Look, Albuquerque, if there's one thing that I've learned running for mayor, it's that when you run to change the status quo gets ugly. There's a survey going around, and I want to answer some of the questions with you. It's important to know I'm not afraid to answer hard questions. It's also important to know that surveys like these are a way for candidates to buy to get out disinformation, not to collect your opinion. So let's start with question one. Alex worked for President Trump. It's false. I work for the people of New Mexico. I can understand why a mayor, who they say retaliates against city employees for disloyalty, might get public service confused, but I don't. I've spent 15 years protecting Albuquerque's families as a prosecutor. That was at the DA's office, it was at the Department of Justice, under multiple administrations. In fact, I was hired by an Obama appointee and appointed to be United States Attorney here in New Mexico by President Biden. In fact, I was fired by President Trump. It's that simple. Next, Alex is taking money from pay-to-play politics. Again, this is false. And also, do better. The average donation to our campaign is under $100 last time I checked. Meanwhile, several other candidates are self-funding their own campaigns. And Tim Keller is taking $750,000 of taxpayer dollars, and he's taking corporate contributions in his PAC from companies who he's given contracts to. Mayor gives you a contract, you give him a campaign contribution. I think that's the definition of pay-to-play. Our finances are all reported and available every month on the city website. Third, Alex Uballez snuck into a homeless shelter. So this is a weird one. It's false. And the real question, though, is what they are worried about me or you finding out what's going on in our shelters. It's true I was given a tour by the management of the Gateway Shelter. It's the same tour that the governor, senators, and most private citizens can receive upon request. I gotta say, it's strange that this isn't a political survey, given that it was a tour at an official city facility. Next one, that Alex would play a role in carrying out attacks on immigrants, civil rights, and the rule of law. Friends, there was a reason I was fired. As U.S. Attorney, my career was defined by smart enforcement that keeps Albuquerque families safe, by focusing on policing at the top of criminal enterprises. I led the investigation to the DWI scandal at APD that ended 30 years of corruption, 8 of which were under the current mayor. Instead of carrying out attacks on civil rights, I actually oversaw the consent decree to prevent them in our city. And I just presented 11 new policies to protect our immigrant neighbors. Most of my colleagues are in court defending the rule of law, and I'm running for mayor to do the same. Do better, status quo. Do better. Next one is that I was sued by a Native American woman for not opening charges against a leader for sexual assault. Here's what I'll say. We do a disservice to the victims of crime anytime that we weaponize people's individual pain for politics. What I can tell you is that as U.S. Attorney, I created the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Peoples Regional Outreach Program in order to put attention on ignored cases. I doubled the size of the Indian Country Crimes Division to better serve Indian country. And I created a reentry court, the first federal one in New Mexico, to help people come back to society and contribute to their communities. At the beginning of my tenure, I gave every staff member a memo that said 32 months. I knew that our time might be limited and that we were going to make as many changes to make that office serve the people of New Mexico better than it did before. That was the mission then, and that was our record. The next one is that Alex says he's tough on crime, but refused to prosecute some cases. Look, justice is blind, but she's not dumb. We have an incumbent who sees the police as an extension of his political campaign, and a former sheriff who made his career putting people in jail for pot until he could profit off it himself. I, on the other hand, led the largest fentanyl bust in the history of the DEA worldwide. I exposed APD corruption happening under Mayor Keller's watch. And I supported creating public safety strategies to prevent crime before it happens, and instead of just reacting to it after it occurs. I believe in care and consequences. I stand by my record. I look forward to any debate on it. The next one is that I continued racist programs. False. Look, there's bias in the legal system. It's part of why I went to law school. I saw that half of federal defendants are Hispanic men who never got to see someone who looked like them on the other side of the courtroom. I decided I wanted to be a prosecutor because I wanted to make the structural changes to make justice work. Instead of mass incarceration, I wanted to create a massive change that keeps families together, creates opportunities, and intervenes in violence to prevent it. Is there bias in the criminal justice system? Of course. Has my career been defined by ending it? Absolutely. The last one, which is Alex criticizes the mayor but has no experience in city government. This one is absolutely true. The mayor wants you to think that the only thing that qualifies you to be mayor is having been mayor before. And that's not how things work, Tim. As U.S. attorney, I held the highest federal executive office in the state. I held the highest security clearance that exists. And I used that office to bust corruption happening here in Albuquerque city government. I used that office to better serve the people of New Mexico. And I used that office where I supervised 200 public servants to deliver results. So have I been involved in the past 8 years of the Keller administration? The answer is no. I think that's a good thing.